What's up, photography world? Josh Rogasso here from theshutterschool.com, and today we have another location hacking video. So this is the third in the series. This is the second in my messy garage. So the first messy garage portrait we did was we went in front of the garage and tried to take advantage of the contrast ratio of the bright natural light outside, dark natural light inside. It made a nice, cool, soft look. Today we're going to try actually being in that messy space. So hopefully if I can take something as messy and cluttered and ugly as this space and turn this into something, then the confidence in being able to turn anywhere into something interesting should be through the roof. So when you're in a messy space like this, what you want to do is look around and try to see, is there anything usable? So actually the wall of tools is kind of a neat pattern and interesting storytelling element. So if you were doing a portrait on me and my tools were part of the story for some reason, you know, I'm a woodworker or something like that, then you definitely want to just say, go ahead and use that messy space and it'll be a nice storytelling element. Maybe you just want to darken the background just a smidge and make the subject a little brighter so that that clutter kind of fades away or is a little bit less distracting. You could try to do that. But what I want to do is kind of practice taking something ugly and turning it into something totally different so that we have a decent background to work with. There's kind of a couple different things we can do to try to manipulate and change the background. So first I want to try to find a background that's got a little bit of a texture or pattern to it because that'll be easier to bokeh out. Now if it was just a shelf with big objects, then when they got blurry, they would be big blurry blobs. But because tools are small, they're gonna all blur out and be a lot more blobs, I'm hoping, when I blur them out. So essentially three things that we can do when we have a background that we don't like. We can darken it, we can blur it, and we can enhance or manipulate it and change it with color. So I'm gonna kind of try to do some of those things. So I've got some lights in here. So the first thing to do is try to make the environment darker so that it's easier to manipulate with light. If this was full of bright natural light, it'd be harder to use my LED lights. And I'm gonna use LED video lights just so it's easier to demonstrate through the video. And if they're not strong enough, then I'll whip out my mag mods and my flashes. So take some pictures and see how it works. Okay, so the first thing I'm trying to do here is just test and see how much bokeh am I getting. Now, if it's not enough and the background isn't getting blurred enough, then I'm gonna want to move farther away from the background. So I have a 50mm prime lens on the camera at 1.8. So as you can see, the background's getting quite blurry, but because there are so many different colored objects, it's still going to be distracting. So if I want this to be a lot of blur, I'm going to have to try getting really far away from the background. But I'm going to do that later. First, I'm going to manipulate the lights while I'm up close, and then we'll try moving farther away to see how that. I have this Yongnuo LED video light on the background, full blue. So what I'm hoping is all those different shapes and colors of metal will, as they get blurry, will also have this blue color so that it'll even out the background. So one of the reasons that a background becomes so distracting is because it has so many different shapes, so many different colors. So one of the ways to kind of even out and make your background less distracting is actually to turn it all one color. So by adding this blue, you're going to make it look a little bit more uniform. And then hopefully by the time it blurs out, you got blur and blue will make the background a lot less distracting. And also to make sure the background is a nice deep blue, I try to underexpose the background about a stop compared to what my face will be. So when I take a picture, I should be a little bit dark and the background will be relatively bright. So you want to expose and get that background dialed in first, and then we're going to add in a light to lighten up the face. So I've got a light coming in, and what I'm going to do with this is I want the light to be, it might be a little bit out of the frame. Hold on. So the trick with the lighting, just to demonstrate, if it's shining right into my face, it's also going to fall on the background. And that's going to wash out some of that blue color. So we need to feather it in such a way and turn it in such a way that it hits my face and not the background. So basically I'm kind of turn it and manipulate it until I see it washing out the background, and then when it stops washing out the background. So this would be a safe angle to still light up my face and not hit the background. So now I'm going to move it into position for the portrait. So the first way I'm trying it is having it directly in front of me, directly overhead, to try to get a lot of light right into my face. It's gonna be tricky with the hat, we'll see how it looks. So as I step in, you'll see the background gets blurry, it's blue, my face is lit. See how it turns out. Cool, so now I'm just taking a few, I've got the light directly in front of me, this light directly behind me, and I'm just gonna kind of move back and forth, kind of move around, try to get some different poses, and see which one looks the best.
All right, so pretty simple. I got good light on the face, pretty soft, even light, and then the background is turning blue and blurry. It's much less distracting. It's not all the way there. Maybe adding a little bit more blur by using a different lens, getting farther away, adding some more lights, stuff like that could probably make this a little bit better, but it's a pretty good start.
Cool, and now another lighting setup I'm gonna try is something to get a little bit more drama. So if you have the light right in front of a face, then it kind of gets a little bit more soft, fills up both sides of the face. I'm gonna try to get a little bit more dimension. So what I'm going to do is have the light coming from the side. But the same principle is going to apply, that I don't want it on the background. So I want to watch it and see where it keeps the background blue, keep it at that angle. And I want it to get enough, turned enough to the background to get in my face, but away from the background enough to keep it off. So probably about right here, and lighting it more from the side is going to make it a more interesting dynamic lighting. So let's see how that looks. So cool, from this setup, I'm just trying to make sure we get light on one side of my face without hitting the background. It's still blue behind me, decent light coming in on me.
Personally, I think this looks much better. I like more contrast, especially when photographing guys. Much more shadow on the face, a little bit more sculpted. I pop a little bit more from the background, so having that light coming from the side, get a little more dimension, makes for a better portrait.
Okay, so I made some tweaks after setting it up and having the camera up close with the 50. I decided to move the camera back with the 85, and I added a second video light in the back to just get a little bit more width to that blueness. When I was up close, the blue was doing a great job getting right behind me, but then in some of the photos, one edge of the workbench was fading to natural light. So this way I have more blue moving farther away to crop in, hoping to get a little bit more blur using the 85 1.8. See how that looks? So I've got the 85 1.8 here for the headshot. I've got one video light shining directly in my face without getting much spill on the background. And you have the two blue lights back there. So the combination of the three things being relatively dark in here, bringing the exposure down, bringing the exposure back up with the blue colored light behind me, and using bokeh blur takes a messy, busy background and turns it into a colorful blue, interesting background.
So I think these look the best. I got more blur, more blue, much more dramatic light coming in from the side. So I think this is a finished product. Turned a messy background into something much more usable, much more interesting, much more photogenic.
Another trick we can try is maybe, since we have this colorful, bright background, instead of putting a light on the subject, maybe we can make it a silhouette. And so what I'm actually gonna do, instead of having this light on my face, I'm gonna put it on the background as well, so we can get extra light on the background and really enhance the darkness for the foreground, which will be me, and try to get a really strong silhouette. Cool, so I got both lights on the background to try to get it a little bit brighter and make a bigger, greater contrast for me and to be a silhouette. And I actually kept one, instead of turning completely on the background, I turned it about halfway, so some of the light's getting on the background and maybe a little bit of light will come back on me, hopefully getting a small amount of rim light. So we'll see.
Cool, so the silhouette turned out okay. I kind of edited it a little bit just to exaggerate it, but as you can see, it didn't turn out too amazing because I think you need a much brighter background relative to the subject. So because I was in a bright garage, I couldn't quite get enough difference between, with these soft video lights, enough difference between the brightness of the background and the subject. So if it was darker in the garage, the video lights would have worked, or if I used flashes and really made a bright background, it probably would have worked out better.
Okay, awesome. So there you go. All you need is some video lights, and you can take a messy, cluttered background and turn it into an interesting background. So the secret to remember is you want to wash out the background with color, and you want to blur it out, and you want it to be a little bit darker than the subject. So that between those three things, you're going to take that distracting background and make it a uniform, shiny, blurry, colorful, pretty background with some good light on the face. It should still turn out into a nice portrait. You can also use speed lights. In future videos, I will make some with speed lights and mag mods and things like that. But I'd like to make some with LED lights because, one, it's easier to show and work quickly. And for a lot of beginners, it's kind of an easy way to kind of practice lighting. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, help this video channel grow. I can't wait to make more of these location hacking videos, and we'll see you in the next video.